Long before books were bound in leather, long before words were carved into stone, there was a being who knew the language of the universe. He did not speak it, he wrote it into existence. His name was Thoth. In the ancient temples of Kemet, what we now call Egypt, Thoth was not merely a deity. He was the mind behind the cosmos, the divine intelligence, the Logos. Known to the Greeks as Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice greatest, he was revered not for strength or wrath, but for something far more dangerous: knowledge. Thoth was the god of writing, language, numbers, time, measurement, and magic. But he was more than their inventor. He was their embodiment. To the priests, Thoth was the reason a ritual worked, the force that gave words power, the breath that made thought become form. He is often depicted with the head of an ibis, a bird whose curved beak resembles the crescent moon itself, a symbol of cycles, wisdom, and the hidden. In other texts, he appears as a baboon, the creature said to greet the rising sun with cries of praise, a living clock that marks the order of creation. But even these images are masks. Thoth is not bound to flesh. He is the principle of divine order, the force that translates the ineffable into the visible. To understand Thoth is to glimpse the process by which the unseen becomes seen. In the Hall of Ma'at, it is Thoth who records the weighing of the soul pen in hand, watching silently as the heart is placed against the feather. He is not judge, he is witness. And this is his greatest power: to observe without distortion, to inscribe what is, not what is desired. The Book of Thoth, then, is not simply a book. It is his mind transcribed, a scroll that holds the secrets of the gods, a text said to contain spells, formulas, and incantations that could allow the reader to speak the language of animals, perceive the gods themselves, know the will of the stars, resurrect the dead, command the heavens and the earth. It is not a book one reads, it is a book that reads you. And herein lies the danger, because those who seek it for power are devoured by it. According to Egyptian myth, the Book of Thoth was so dangerous, so absolute in its revelations, that it was hidden beneath the Nile, sealed in a series of nested boxes, guarded by serpents and spirits. Only a few dared to retrieve it, and none escaped unchanged. In later ages, Thoth's essence would be echoed through Hermeticism, the mystical teachings that formed the backbone of Western esotericism. The Emerald Tablet, the Corpus Hermeticum, the Tarot all trace their lineage to Thoth. But what they contain is only fragments, because the full Book of Thoth is not meant to be understood with the mind. It is a living current, a vibration, a transmission, a test. Those who align with it are transformed. Those who do not are undone. Thoth, then, is not just a scribe. He is the guardian of truth. And truth, as every seeker learns, is not safe. It is fire. It is light too bright for the unprepared. So the book waits, and Thoth watches pen in hand. They say the Book of Thoth was hidden, not lost. Hidden, because what it contains is too powerful, too final, too true, and truth, in its rawest form, is dangerous. It does not yield. It does not bend. It does not care for the illusions of kings or the prayers of the unready. It simply is. And that is why the gods concealed it. The myth, as preserved in ancient Egyptian texts, tells of a time long after Thoth had inscribed the book, a scroll of unimaginable knowledge, containing spells that could Allow one to commune with the gods. Asterisk. Understand the speech of all creatures. Asterisk. Perceive the structure of the heavens. Asterisk. Raise the dead. Asterisk. And command the forces of creation and decay. It was not a book of theory. It was the code of reality. And it was buried. Some say Thoth placed it at the bottom of the Nile, sealed in a series of nested boxes, one of gold, one of silver, one of lapis lazuli, one of iron, one of bronze, one of cedar, and finally a stone sarcophagus guarded by serpents that never sleep. Others say the book was hidden in the House of Life, the temple libraries accessible only to the highest priesthood, not because they wanted to protect the book, but because they feared what it could do. But eventually, as the myth goes, a man came seeking it. A prince named Neferkepta, a scribe, a magician, a seeker of forbidden light. He was warned. The priest told him the book was cursed, that it was not meant for mortals. But he was clever, skilled in magic, and full of hunger. He retrieved it. He broke the seals, slew the serpents, and opened the scroll. And he read, and he learned, and everything changed. According to the legend, Neferkepta gained the powers the book promised. He could hear the voices of the animals, control wind and water, see through the veil of death, but his soul began to rot. His family died, his sanity fractured. He became something less than a man and more than one. In the end, he killed himself, begging to be buried with the book. But the story doesn't end there. Centuries later, a new seeker, Setnakamwas, another royal magician, found the tomb of Neferkepta. He too desired the book, he too was warned, and he too took it. And the same curse unfolded. Setni experienced visions, was tormented by spirits, watched his child die until, broken, he returned the book to its resting place. The message is clear. The Book of Thoth is not a treasure, it is a test. Those who seek it for power are consumed. Those who seek it for truth are dismantled, because the book does not give wisdom, it gives reality. Unfiltered, unforgiving, unyielding. The myth is more than a cautionary tale. It is a mirror. Each of us is Neferkepta. Each of us is Setni. Each of us, at some point in the path, wants to know more than we are ready to hold. And the book waits. Silent, sealed, watching. Not because it is cruel, but because it is true. And truth must be earned, not taken. What makes knowledge forbidden? Is it dangerous in itself, or does it threaten those who rule? Is it hidden to protect the seeker, or to preserve the illusion? In every ancient tradition, there exists a boundary, a line drawn not on the earth, but in the mind, a veil between what is known and what is only meant to be discovered through transformation. The Book of Thoth lives on that boundary, because it contains forbidden knowledge, not because it is evil, but because it is true in a way that breaks illusion, and illusion is what most people call reality. To know what is inside the book is to see behind the veil, to understand the code behind creation. But such understanding comes at a price: your identity, your comfort, your certainty. The one who seeks truth must be willing to burn everything they believe. That is why it is forbidden. Not to protect the world from knowledge, but to protect the unready from themselves. In Hermetic and Gnostic traditions, forbidden knowledge is not demonic, it is divine. It is the light hidden inside darkness. It is the fire of Prometheus, the fruit of Eden. The Luciferian impulse, not evil, but illumination before authority allows it. This is the secret behind the serpent in the garden. It was not a deceiver. It was a revealer. And just like the Book of Thoth, that fruit offered a gift with a cost: self-awareness, the knowledge of good and evil, of opposites, of duality. Once tasted, innocence is gone. The soul cannot return to blindness. That is the nature of forbidden knowledge. It is a threshold, a mirror that cannot be unlooked into, and those who cross it are never the same. To read the Book of Thoth is to understand the speech of animals, which is to say, to hear what has always been speaking. To read it is to see the gods not as myths, but as frequencies, living forces behind matter. To read it is to raise the dead, to resurrect forgotten parts of the soul, buried beneath conditioning and fear. But these are not gifts, they are initiations. And that is why the book is not read like a scroll. It is lived like a riddle. It speaks to you through synchronicity, through dreams, through symbols that appear just when you are ready and never before. It is not a book you can steal. It is a book you become. Every ancient initiate knew this, that true knowledge, the kind worth hiding, is not information, it is transformation. And once you've touched it, you can never return, because the forbidden is only forbidden until you understand it. And then it becomes your path. In the outer world, the Book of Thoth is a myth, a lost scroll, an artifact buried in time. But in the mystery traditions, it was never just a book. It was a living current, a stream of divine intelligence encoded into symbols, geometry, ritual, and inner transformation. It was not something you could read with the eyes, but something you unlocked with the soul. The ancient Egyptian priesthood, the Hermetic alchemists, the Rosicrucians, and the keepers of the mystery schools all pointed toward the same truth. There is a hidden knowledge that cannot be taught, only revealed. And the Book of Thoth was the key. Its contents were said to include the architecture of reality. Asterisk, the nature of the soul. Asterisk, the laws of correspondence, as above, so below. Asterisk, the principles of alchemy, astrology, and sacred geometry. Asterisk, the mechanisms of time, death, and rebirth. Asterisk, and the sacred process of becoming more than human. To study this book was to walk the path of initiation, not the kind offered in words or lectures, but the kind hidden in temples, encoded in labyrinths, spoken only in silence. The kind where each stage of knowledge must be earned through experience, sacrifice, and inner death. In the temples of Egypt, especially at Edfu, Abydos, and Dendera, the architecture itself is a map of this journey. The initiate passed through darkness into light, through trial into revelation. Walls were inscribed with celestial diagrams, mathematical codes, star charts, not decoration, but instruction. The Book of Thoth was written into the stone. Later, in Hermeticism, Thoth reappeared as Hermes Trismegistus, the mythical teacher whose writings became the foundation of alchemy and Western esotericism. The Emerald Tablet and the Corpus Hermeticum were not random texts. They were fragments, pages torn from the original current, preserved under the cloak of metaphor and symbol. That which is below is like that which is above, the Emerald Tablet says. A line so simple, yet infinitely deep. A single sentence from the Book of Thoth could unravel the veil between worlds if truly understood. The tarot, too, is said to be a remnant of the book, a portable temple, a living glyph set, handed down in symbolic form. Each card is a gate, each sequence a ritual. Thoth is not just the scribe in this system, he is the deck. In fact, The legendary Thoth tarot deck, designed by Aleister Crowley and Lady Freda Harris, was built explicitly as a visual reconstruction of the original book. Its images, geometry, and correspondences are not creative, they are restorative. Because the Book of Thoth was not lost, it was fractured, scattered, hidden in plain sight. It became the spine of initiation. To seek the book is to seek the self. To read the book is to descend into mystery, and to understand it is to dissolve the veil between symbol and reality. This is the truth every initiate came to learn. The Book of Thoth was never ink on papyrus. It was everything sacred that could not be spoken, preserved in temples, taught in silence, guarded by fire, and revealed only to those willing to give up everything in order to know who they truly are. The Book of Thoth may not sit on any shelf, but it has not vanished. Its words, its wisdom, its warnings they live on, scattered across time, echoing through secret societies that have guarded the flame of ancient knowledge. Because when something is too dangerous to be public, it is not destroyed, it is encrypted. In symbols, in rituals, in degrees. The Freemasons, perhaps the most well-known inheritors of the mystery traditions, speak often of light, of architecture, of sacred tools. But beneath the metaphors lies lineage. The Masonic Lodge itself is a temple, constructed symbolically upon the foundations of the Temple of Solomon, which itself was built, they say, with wisdom granted by Thoth's descendants. Within their degrees, particularly in the higher Scottish Rite candidates, undergo ritual death and rebirth, mirroring the process of reading the book, confronting illusion, purifying the self, earning access to hidden truth. They call it light, but it is the same fire Thoth once held. The Rosicrucians, too, trace their teachings to Egypt cloaked in Christian mysticism, but pulsing with Hermetic core. Their manifestos speak of a secret brotherhood that preserved ancient knowledge through dark ages, awaiting a time when it could again be shared. And their central myth? The discovery of a tomb containing hidden books and scrolls, forbidden knowledge waiting to awaken the world. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn built its entire system around the resurrection of lost Egyptian light. Their initiations, deeply symbolic, mirrored the path through the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, and culminated in contact with divine intelligence, often personified as Thoth himself. Why this recurring theme? Because every secret society that seeks true transformation must eventually pass through the same gate, and behind that gate, whether they call it a ritual, a degree, or an inner chamber, is the book. Not literally, but energetically, conceptually, symbolically, initiatically. In Kabbalah, the Sephira of Hod, ruled by Mercury, the planet of intellect and messages, aligns with Thoth. Hod is the realm of sacred language, of codes, of patterns, a domain one must pass through on the way to divine realization. The Emerald Tablet, the Tarot, the Zodiac, the Tree of Life, the symbols on the dollar bill, the geometry of cathedrals, the layout of Washington, D.C., the stained glass of the Gothic era, all of it hums with echoes of the book, not copies, refractions. Because no single text could contain the full current, so it was dispersed, scattered across systems, symbols, orders, art, architecture, even music. To protect it, and to ensure that only those with eyes to see could piece it back together. This is the great paradox. The Book of Thoth is hidden in plain sight, but only the initiated, those who have passed the trials of the inner self, can recognize it. Not because they've joined a group, but because they've become the thing those groups were built to protect. The book is not in a vault. It is alive in those who remember. The Book of Thoth is spoken of as myth, a metaphor, a mystery. But what if it was also real? For centuries, seekers, scholars, and occultists have searched not only through temples and tombs, but through libraries lost to fire, vaults sealed by oath, and manuscripts written in scripts no one can read, hoping to find the fragments of a book that once contained the divine architecture of creation itself. Some believe the original Book of Thoth was hidden beneath the temple complexes of Hermopolis or Edfu cities sacred to Thoth. Inscriptions there speak of a primordial house of life, a center of sacred learning, home to scrolls said to contain the words of the gods. But that center is gone, buried, looted, sealed in stone in silence. Others point to the Library of Alexandria, that impossible archive said to have housed hundreds of thousands of scrolls, many written by Egyptian priests, Greek philosophers, and foreign mystics. Was the Book of Thoth there? Could it have been destroyed or hidden away before the flames came? Some say it was spirited to the deserts, to be guarded by secret lineages. Others whisper that it was taken further across the sea, beneath the earth, into the hands of those who understood its danger. There are texts today that echo it. The Emerald Tablet, said to be written by Hermes Trismegistus himself, is a cryptic summary of cosmic laws. It speaks of transmutation, unity, and the divine relationship between spirit and matter. A single page, but endless in depth. The Nag Hammadi Library, unearthed in 1945 in Egypt, contained Gnostic texts long thought lost, including writings about divine knowledge, hidden realms, and celestial books that awaken the soul. The Picatrix, the Book of Enoch, the Zohar, the Sibylline oracles, and the Kybalion all claim to contain forbidden knowledge, once passed down from divine or pre-human origins. Even stranger still are the untranslated manuscripts, like the Voynich manuscript, filled with indecipherable script and bizarre illustrations. A hoax? Or a language designed not to be read with the mind, but with something else? Some researchers go further. They suggest the Book of Thoth was not a scroll at all, but a device, a form of spiritual technology, something left behind by non-human intelligences, extraterrestrial or interdimensional, encoded with frequencies and instructions beyond the range of linear thought. In this view, the book is a misinterpretation. It was a tool, perhaps crystalline, perhaps alive, something that required consciousness itself as the key. Others suggest that the book never left, that it was not hidden in the world, but in the human being. In our DNA, our memory, our intuition, a program waiting to be reactivated, a scroll written in light, coiled like a serpent at the base of the spine, waiting for the initiate to rise and remember. Is the Book of Thoth real? The better question may be, which version are you looking for? Because if you seek a scroll in a museum, you will never find it. But if you seek the pattern, the current, the code, you'll begin to see it everywhere. In symbols, in architecture, in sacred texts, and in your own unfolding awareness. The book may be real, but only to those who are ready to read it. They say those who find the Book of Thoth are never the same, because to read it is not to gain knowledge. It is to lose yourself. The myths warned us. Those who open the book gain power, yes, but also madness, ruin, or death. Because the book doesn't give secrets in words, it gives them in revelation. And revelation is violent to illusion. The book speaks in symbols, in frequency, in dream language. It bypasses the ego. It addresses the deep self, the part of you buried beneath masks, roles, conditioning, and names. So what happens when you read the book? You begin to see through everything. You hear animals, not their sounds, but their essence, the speech of animals, is the voice of nature herself, instinct, rhythm, presence. To hear it is to tune into the field of life, no longer separate. You perceive the gods not as external beings, but as archetypes, currents, living intelligences that animate existence. You don't just learn about them, you remember them, because they are aspects of you. You raise the dead not by command, but through resonance. Forgotten memories surface, past lives stir, ancestors whisper, parts of the psyche long buried return. What was lost is reanimated. But with it comes everything you tried to escape. The light comes, and it burns. Reading the book is like gazing into the sun. It reveals, but it can blind. You see your beliefs collapse, your identity fragment, your myths disintegrate. What you thought was you dissolves into a question that cannot be answered. This is the death every initiate must face. In alchemy, it is solutio, the dissolving. In tarot, it is the tower collapse of false structure. In mysticism, it is ego death, the annihilation of self-image to birth something truer. Some do not survive it, not physically, but spiritually. They recoil, retreat, cling to the old patterns with greater force. But those who endure, they emerge not enlightened, but emptied. And only then does the real reading begin. Because once the ego is shattered, the soul can remember. And the book reveals itself not as an external object, but as a mirror, a spiral, a code that lives in your breath, your dreams, your silence. You do not read it, you become it. And everything after that is different. The world no longer feels solid. Time no longer feels linear. Words lose their weight, and silence speaks more than sound. You are not empowered. You are rewritten. This is the danger of the Book of Thoth. This is its price. And this is why it remains hidden. Not because it is evil, but because it is too real for the unreal to hold. You searched for the book. You followed the trail through myth, through temples, through whispers left behind by the initiated. You heard its name in ancient languages. You traced its shadow in rituals, in architecture, in fragments of lost texts. And now, at the edge of the path, comes the most difficult truth of all. The Book of Thoth was never outside you. It was never meant to be found on a scroll, hidden in a tomb, or locked behind sealed libraries. It was written in you, in your DNA, in your dreams, in the silence between your thoughts. It is the divine memory encoded in your being, waiting, watching, whispering across lifetimes for the moment you were ready to awaken. Because every symbol you've studied, every myth you've followed, every temple you've imagined was pointing inward. The book is a metaphor for the self when stripped of illusion. A sacred map etched not in ink, but in initiation, in loss, in awakening. Thoth, the scribe of the gods, was never just a deity. He is the archetype of consciousness remembering itself. The book is not read with eyes. It is read with awareness. And the only way to turn its pages is to change who you are. So you've reached the end of the story only to realize it's the beginning. Because now the real question appears, not what is the book, but can you bear to read it, knowing you'll never be the same? If so, you're no longer just a seeker. You are becoming the scribe. And every step you take, every thought, every act of silent knowing is a new page being written in a language older than time. The book is open, and it is you.